Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I've made it clear that I believe that we need to root out fraud and that those who steal taxpayer money have to go to jail. That's why I strongly supported Andy Lugar as the U.S. Attorney under President Biden. I recommended him for that job. And I also recommended Joe Thompson, the lead prosecutor who headed up the fraud cases, to serve as acting U.S. Attorney. The office has indicted 98 people, most of them about a year ago or so, and obtained 60 convictions. As you know, Mr. McDonald, we talked about that. I appreciated you talking with me. You worked with Joe Thompson when President Trump announced him as the acting U.S. Attorney. Do you agree that the work that he and the other prosecutors did to investigate fraud in Minnesota is an example of what we should be doing and we should be continuing? And what do you think the prosecutors there did well? And what would you do differently, or how would you coordinate with local prosecutors around the country?
Thank you, Senator, for the question and for the time that you spent with me. I really appreciated that. Senator, as you know, the work in Minnesota has been pivotal. The work of the U.S. Attorney's Office there and the personnel there has been pivotal to highlighting the problems of fraud that permeate our taxpayer-funded programs. That sort of effort, which also is undertaken by our healthcare fraud unit within our criminal division and U.S. Attorney's offices around the country, is what the National Fraud Enforcement Division will be looking to do and scale to an extent that we've not seen before within the Department of Justice. I will be working with the Inspectors General community, with our federal agencies and federal partners, with our state and local partners to ensure that we find the fraud where it's occurring and that we have the resources to prosecute it, to investigate it and prosecute it, and ultimately ensure that the fraud that we're seeing annually perpetrated against these programs comes to an end.
Thank you. And given what the president announced last night about the vice president heading this up and other comments that Senator Durbin mentioned, how are you going to assure us that under your leadership that the fraud office that you would head up in the Justice Department follows only the facts and the laws, and that political pressure won't play a part? You and I talked about other states that aren't maybe blue states that we know have experienced fraud as well, in addition to working on the cases in Minnesota.
Senator, as a career federal prosecutor, what I do day in and day out is I uncover the facts and I follow those facts and apply them to the law, following at all times the provisions of the Justice Manual and the principles of federal prosecution to ensure that every case that I bring is fair and is just. That's what I've done as a career federal prosecutor, and that's what I will do if confirmed to this AAG position.
As you know, we've lost Joe Thompson and Harry Jacobs, 14 assistant U.S. attorneys, some of them you know and worked with. How do you plan on addressing the exodus from that office? And I know you're not the U.S. attorney, but how would you manage this when you're trying to work with the locals? I know you believe that the locals have to continue to do a lot of this work. So how is that going to be managed? As you know, they resigned because they did not want to investigate Renee Good's wife.
Senator, the Department of Justice is filled with incredible, talented prosecutors spanning the country in all of our 93 U.S. attorneys' offices and also in our litigating components in our criminal division and in our civil division. The Department of Justice will continue to build teams of experienced prosecutors and couple them with experienced agents to root out this fraud and to ensure that we are able to put a bigger dent into the mountain of fraud than we've ever done before.
And just last, we talked about this. There's also significant consumer scams. In 2020, prosecutors charged more than 60 defendants with the telemarketing scam that swindled seniors of $300 million. Are you going to prioritize these cases as well to protect consumers against fraud?
Senator, I will work with my partners within the Department of Justice to ensure that we have visibility over the entire playing field of fraud and that we are bringing criminal actors to justice.
Thank you.
Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr.